All right, this is a very exciting chapter. We're going to talk about circumcision today. Yay. So, circumcision, where do I even begin? Do I have to explain it to you? I hope I don't have to explain it. I really don't want to get too graphic, especially for a YouTube video. I don't know what they allow, what they don't allow, but I figured I'd bring out the big Bible for this one today. So, there's so much here that I love in the story of Abram and Sarai. So I'm assuming you've read it with me, that you're reading this with me. And we know now that Abram, his name is being changed to Abraham. And Sarai, her name will be known as Sarah. Now, I heard a teaching on this once about the H sounds being added to their names, Abraham and Sarah. So, that sound. And it was by, I believe, Rabbi Schneider from Discovering the Jewish Jesus. I could be wrong, but I think it was him. He was talking about that sound and how it's like God's breath, breathing life into something. Just like his name, Yahweh, which is like that breath sound. He's life. He breathes air into our lungs. So I thought that's just interesting to call out that, he's very intentional about how he's naming them right here. So he's known as Abraham, and she'll be known as Sarah going forward. So, or Sarah. Now, continues to talk about the covenant that he's making with him. He's establishing a real covenant now. Now it's not just a promise, I guess. Now he's not just saying, Abraham, you're going to have many sons, many daughters, many offspring, many descendants in the future, sand of the sea, stars of the sky. He's not just saying that. He's now establishing a covenant with him. That's, a bond. There's a bond now being formed between God and man. And this is incredible. This is incredible. I mean, we see the covenant that God makes with humanity when he puts the rainbow in the sky. But now he's establishing one directly with Abraham. One-on-one. Just you and me, Abraham. Your people. The people that you father. And their kids and their kids and their kids for generations to come. They're going to be my people. They're going to be my people. And I'm going to instill this sign, this very specific sign that they're my people. And that's what circumcision is. Circumcision it's graphic. It's bloody. It's painful. Some people think it's gross. It's gross. Thinking about it, I guess, it's gross. But that's the covenant that God chose. And I guess when I'm struggling with this sometimes, is like, God, why? Why would you pick circumcision? Why would you pick circumcision as your covenant, as the sign of your covenant? And thinking about it, it's like, all right, well, nothing's easy. Nothing's easy when it comes to, dying to our flesh, I should say. Nothing's easy when it comes to leaving behind the world and following Christ. Thinking ahead as a Christian here. So, thinking in that regard, having read the New Testament and looking backwards now at the Old Testament, I see a little more clearly. I see a little more clearly what's happening here. He's foreshadowing that salvation is going to come through your people. Salvation is going to come through Abraham and your people. So, if I remember correctly, which I do, Adam and Eve made clothes out of plants, out of figs, and God said that wasn't good enough. He gave them skins of animals. So something had to die. So with the act of circumcision, yes, something has to be cut. The blood has to be shed. There has to be pain in order for salvation to come about. So it's a sign of the blood covenant. that God will make with us later on. When I look at these covenants, I think, wow, these covenants point to Jesus. That's what they do. The blood points to Jesus. The removal of the foreskin, that points towards a removal of sin. A removal of sin. And then when I look at this even further, I think, well, not to get too graphic here, but Ishmael, which was the son that Abram had with Hagar, as we heard about before, he was conceived before this covenant was established. So think about that one. And then he's promising that Isaac is going to be the promised son. He's the promise I made to you, Abraham, through Sarah. You and Sarah are going to have a child named Isaac. The covenant was made. Abraham was 99 years old when he circumcised himself, and he circumcised all his servants and the people of his house. And then that gives way to God being able to fulfill his promise. To fulfill his promise to Abraham was after the covenant had been made. And just knowing how babies are born, conceived and born, I think of the significance of the actual act of circumcision. And again, this is something that never jumped out to me before until now, is looking at Ishmael and how he was conceived, and now Isaac and how he was conceived. It wasn't just two different women. It was two different Abrahams, really. So, if you get what I'm saying. So, the point I think that we really have to take away from circumcision is that it is a sign. It is a sign of obedience. It is a sign of connection with God. It is a sign of salvation. That's what it is. And God one day will circumcise our hearts. That's what he said. We learn later on that he circumcises our hearts. He removes sin from our hearts through Jesus. So all this in Genesis, all of what we're reading, all of what we're going to be reading in the Old Testament going forward, think about again, how does this point towards Jesus? How does this point towards the Passover lamb, Jesus Christ, who is the ultimate sacrifice for sin? How does this all point towards the cross, the blood that he shed for us? So when we read it through that lens, when we read the Old Testament through that lens, the things that were once hidden to the Jews, hidden to people before Jesus, now we can see clearly. Now we can see clearly what's been going on here. So the Bible is a beautiful, beautiful book. And sometimes it can get graphic, and sometimes the topics and the subjects can get a little bit sensitive. But at the end of the day, there's nothing we can't be too sensitive about when it comes to our salvation. There's nothing we can't be, shying away from when it comes to establishing a relationship with our Creator and being reconciled to him. So glad I broke out the big book for this, and I hope that we can continue to move forward together and just receive more revelation and blessing from God. You have a blessed day, and I'll see you for Genesis 18.